Hello, I'm Luca De Giglio, and this is the Web3 in Travel podcast, where you can learn about crypto, blockchain, and how the new internet will change travel. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Web3 in Travel podcast. Today, we have with us Narb. He's going to present himself, but I really want to talk to him because I heard an interview he did a few weeks ago, and he is both very knowledgeable in, he's a developer or a technical guy who got into crypto recently, but very quickly, he went into, he understood the most important parts and probably even more than that. And he's also working for a corporation, which is Expedia. And Expedia was maybe the first corporation, Narb, to get into crypto when a few years ago they started accepting Bitcoin for flights, if I'm not wrong, and then they stopped. We're going to talk about that too. So, Narb, welcome to the show. It's a show, and please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Luca. And yes, pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody. So my name is Narb Shanazarian. I go by Narb for short. I'm a software engineer at Expedia for almost 7 years now. It'll be 7 years in January. I predominantly have been in the cruise domain, but I have recently switched over to the flights. So that's Web2 me. Web3 me is a Web3 aficionado, as Luca mentioned. So I am a member of Developer DAO, where I basically host a podcast kind of similar to this, but called Dev and Tell, for developers to come on and showcase the hard work that they're doing. And then I also run a not-for-profit called the Glossetta Foundation, whose purpose is to educate the non-technical person around the high-level Web3 concepts. And as if I didn't have enough spare time on my hands, I also run a company that does a bit of philanthropy with a co-founder of mine called Good People Click, where we allow you to shop online and we donate to charities on your behalf at no extra cost. And yeah, like I said, ecstatic to be on here today. Thank you, Luca.
So you're a good guy. Why the Mordor background? So if you listen to the podcast, there's a nice Mordor, Lord of the Rings, evil people in his background. So why?
Yes, great question. So this background kind of came up when the pandemic started. So I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. Every Christmas, I have a tradition of watching all 3 versions of the movie, the extended editions. Right. But anyways, I put this background up just to have a bit of fun at work. And then it started out as a pretty good conversation starter, just like before we started this podcast. So I just kept it ever since, and I've been rolling with it.
All right. I'm changing the subject, but there's a reason. Are you following the ordinals thing in Bitcoin?
No, I haven't heard of that. No.
So there's Woody and Eric. There are 2 prominent Bitcoiners who are doing the wizards. I don't know if you've seen that. So the dressing is wizards, and they're kind of pushing development on Bitcoin, etc. Anyway, they asked for there was a quest to do a movie about ordinals, and I did a short movie with the scene of Lord of the Rings where Gandalf fights with the Borg or something, this monster which breaks the bridge. Balrog.
Yeah, the Balrog.
Sorry.
Yes.
And then he falls into this pit and it falls for hundreds of years or something. So I did a scene overlapping my face with the beard and everything as a metaphor for Bitcoin fighting against, I can't even remember that, but like maybe the fiat system or something like that. I sent you the link.
Yeah, for sure.
It was fun.
That's awesome.
All right. Okay, listen. So the idea is that you probably have very specific perspective on Web3 and travel, because you're both technical and you're both, you're not only technical Web3, you're also Web2. So you are based on the real world. You know how things actually work. You don't go out with, Web3 dreams like, okay, blockchain is going to change everything, 2017, 18 kind of thing, or Web3 and DAOs are going to change everything more recent. you probably know what works and what doesn't work, and you probably also know why some things are not happening yet, etc. So that's why I want to talk to you, your perspective. Let me start by asking you in general, what is your view of the travel industry and Web3, just very freely?
For sure. Yeah. So the travel industry, for people who aren't working in the space, is actually quite a complicated area. Every different domain, whether it's cruise or flights or cars or vacation rentals, each of these things is a very complex domain. And the biggest issue I see, at least from my experience, is the data sources that kind of power all the bookings in the background. They're usually very slow to innovate in the sense that most people view it as if it's working, there's no need to change it. And that kind of stifles the innovation from um, the back end, way back end, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that consumers, such as online travel agents like Expedia or whomever, they have the power to innovate as much as they want, but there's still some limiting factors in terms of what you can do in terms of inventory and supply and whatnot. So one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest areas of interest for me personally, and everything that I discuss here is basically my personal opinions and views. So take that as it is. But the biggest thing that I kind of see kind of pushing the travel industry forward is the tokenization of travel assets. And there, you see a lot of different companies kind of exploring that. A lot of it has to do with essentially creating NFT versions of whether it's a flight or a hotel room or whatnot. And in conjunction with that, there are a lot of uh, people that are trying to drive that with open marketplaces. So I kind of see that as one of the biggest emerging trends that we'll see once most of the travel industry kind of adopts Web3. And a lot of corporates actually don't realize that using blockchain is a great way to save on costs, in the sense that you have a bunch of open infrastructure that's maintained by many, many, many different people around the world. And it is far less costly if you're using the right chains than your cost today with AWS or Azure or what have you, which depending on what your contract specifications are, could be in the millions, way up there.
Okay,
So that
so
answers. Yeah.
you're focused on how the infrastructure, there's like a new infrastructure that is not being yet used, and which has in some probably use cases advantages over the existing infrastructure. Not only cost, right? Is well, what would you say to a big corporation like Expedia or any other one, if you could speak to the right person and say, okay, look, and you can sit down with them for a few hours and say, look, this is Web3, and that's what we could do now, not before waiting for world adoption or regulatory clarification. Well, now, what would you do now if you were in charge of this decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, to be able to present a really great customer experience in terms of using this tech, it's still a bit a ways away in terms of people getting rid of the need to manage their own wallets, sign transactions, pay gas fees. So if it was to be done in a way where the user doesn't really understand that they're using Web3 under the hood, I think that would be a great way to kind of go about things. And on the flip side, in terms of optimizing operations for a corporation that's looking to use blockchain, blockchains are great. You can have a public version of a blockchain, which many of us are familiar with, or you can have a private version. Each has their own pros and cons, but if you really want to get at the meat of Web3, you really have to go towards a public blockchain, whether it's a Bitcoin, an Ethereum, a layer 2 on Ethereum, like Polygon or whatever. But essentially, it's not only costs that can be reduced with infrastructure, but now you have this big resiliency network where data is essentially kept 100%, almost 100% uptime, assuming that all the nodes in the network are still running. So even if if I'm running a node and you're running a node, Luca, and then for whatever reason our internet connection goes out and we can't support the system, there's millions of other people that are running the same software that are supporting that network that will keep the system running. So you do get that fallover and resiliency out of the box as well. And on top of that, because everything is open source, there's way more critique of all the different security concerns that might be out there, and you have many different developers having eyes on it to be able to more quickly come to resolve on those issues versus a limited set of folks who may be inside a corporation that look at code. And we all see all the different kinds of data leaks and whatnot that kind of come out. So I think there's only pros to this technology. Now it won't completely replace everything that we're using today, but I think it's a very nice complement to today's world.
So you will probably start slowly moving some parts of the tech stack on the decentralized infra, which is now available, and basically take it slow and see how it goes. And you're gonna acquire resiliency. Sorry, I'm basically re-saying what you said just to make sure I understood it. And it will be more resilient. It will be also save money in some cases. In some cases, it's still better to use AWS or whatever. So it will be kind of like a very practical and realistic approach, not an ideological one like Web3 is by the Web2, whatever, right? So just use what is out there and what works now, okay? And that's at the infrastructure level. Do you see anything happening in the short term, or do you see something which could happen, or would you do something at the app layer? And before you reply, I'm gonna just throw out there this new app, which is Friends or Friend Tech, which is it's something which started a bit like a Ponzi scheme, but it's still there. It's kind of working, and it's interesting to see the approach they had, because it doesn't require wallet knowledge and stuff. Of course, you're losing in decentralization, you're losing sovereignty, but it's working, right? So do you see something happening in the short term in the travel industry at the app layer, or basically any app or any use case for customers or businesses?
Yeah, I think the easiest thing, if I were running a travel company to kind of test the waters of Web3 at this moment, is to introduce payments, being able to pay for travel with crypto. Why do I say that? Is because the average person, their biggest knowledge point with Web3 is around the cryptocurrency space, whether it's for speculation, which is probably what it is. But the reason I say that is because there's not a lot of places that you can actually spend your cryptocurrency right now. So we all know Bitcoin mostly is seen as like a store of value, Ethereum to a certain extent as well, but there's many other tokens like USDC, for example, or USDT, Eurocoin as well, where basically these things are one-to-one parity with their backing fiat currency. So theoretically, a person who wants to pay for travel should be afforded the opportunity to do so with a cryptocurrency. And there's many different solutions out there that will enable a corporation to not necessarily hold that crypto and to appease the accounting folks. So you have a full resolution of crypto to fiat to bank account, but for the end user, they have that many more options to pay with if they so choose. So Travala is a great example of this. They're doing basically hotel and flight bookings, allowing users to book with crypto or the traditional payment rails. And interestingly, they have every month and every quarter, they release kind of this monthly review of how their business is going. And an interesting stat that's out there is even though that they present both methods of payment for the user, their predominant use case is people paying with crypto, which kind of speaks volumes to there being demand for such a thing out there. So that's kind of where I see the initial like Web3 adoption happening, and then another kind of parallel to that would be companies looking to enhance their loyalty programs with Web3. So it wouldn't be replacing them completely, but it'd be more so taking a Starbucks-like approach where they introduced their Odyssey program, but they didn't replace their very successful loyalty program. They kind of added a layer on top of that. So that's kind of how I see a lot of corporates, not necessarily not even just travel, just corporations in general, kind of getting into that space. But there is a lot of regulatory blockades out there that are kind of preventing that. So
even on the loyalty programs, or more on the payment side?
More on the payment side, I would say.
Okay.
Loyalty, there's a bit more flexibility in terms of what you can and can't do. But essentially, most of the things that I've seen, essentially, it revolves around having a NFT representation of something and calling it a digital collectible.
Right. Sure. Yeah, that's what they do now. They changed the name because NFT is toxic, so they changed the name.
Yeah, toxic, yes.
Yeah. Let me tell you a bit my take on this. So payments, I was very excited about payments early on. I started accepting Bitcoin as a payment method on my vacation rental platform in 2014. That was like many years ago now, and it never took off until I had to open this bank account, a Silicon Valley bank account, because I had a startup, and they told me, we're going to open the bank account for you if you remove any mention of Bitcoin on your website. So I removed it, and so I had my useless bank account, basically at SVB, Silicon Valley Bank. And when I removed it, people started asking to pay in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was worth like $200, $300, and I couldn't accept any. And now, thinking about that, and thinking that Silicon Valley Bank actually was destroyed because of the dangers of the fiat system and not because of the dangers of the crypto system, was really, really weird, paradoxical in a way. And then the 2017-18 period in which, Travala came out, Locktrip came out, and the biggest use case is actually payment with cryptocurrencies. I'm not too excited about that. I was completely against that, in a way that I personally never wanted to spend my crypto. But that was a bit before the stable coins were a thing. And even today, if I want to spend my crypto, I can use my Binance card, my Crypto.com card. It's not a very compelling use case. Yeah, it's good to know that I can use my USDC or something, but I'm not using them. Still, then I went to a conference in Lisbon, Ethereum conference, and I found out people who actually earn only crypto, and they don't have a bank account, and they don't want to go back from the new system to the legacy system just to pay Booking.com or Expedia booking. So they said, no, I'm using Travala because I can use my crypto. And that, of course, in the bear market where less people earn crypto, is not as strong as before. But I see there is a use case. I only think it's not that strong. Okay. And by the way, a few days ago, Sleep.io launched, which is another booking platform which is also accepting cryptocurrency. So basically, the environment, that the industry is doubling down on this use case. Again, crypto payments are gonna just keep growing, but they're not enough to. It's not something which we like. It's not something which is 10 times better. You can use credit cards, and paying in crypto is not 10 times better, unless you only earn crypto. That's a bit of thing. And I'm more excited about the loyalty programs, actually. And I agree 100% with you, is nobody should really dismantle their loyalty programs and adventure them, like going into NFTs without even knowing how that works. But yeah, as experiments. And we've seen recently, you know, Etihad, not so recently, but even Lufthansa a few weeks ago, they started, I keep calling it experiments because I'm sure these are not main things, but like somebody's allowed them to try that. But they're very interesting, and Lufthansa really did a very good execution on that. So yeah, and Starbucks is not really travel, but yeah, they did it too. So yeah, I kind of agree basically with what you say. But I have to say, I'm still waiting for, and I keep using this word because it makes me look clever, but it's actually a powerful word. It's a skeuomorphic thing, right? That post-skeuomorphic approach in which we do things in Web3 and travel, which were not only like, were not even conceivable before. Right? We aren't there yet, right? We're still doing the loyalty program differently. We're still doing payments differently. I'm really waiting for the moment in which somebody comes up with an idea, which is not only not doable in Web2, but not even conceivable, right? And that's going to happen. It's going to be very nice to see what comes out of it. Well, NFTs as bookings is something like that in a way, because they transform what used to be a contract. So I book your room, that's a contract between me and you, to a digital asset, and I buy that night, and now it's mine, and I do whatever I want with it. So NFTs for bookings is something like maybe the first post-skeuomorphic thing in Web3. Right. Okay. So just I wanted to kind of tell you my point of view with that. What about tokenization? You were mentioning that. Can you tell me a bit more? Because it may be that the next bull run is going to be about real world assets. So RWA and tokenization of assets in the travel industry is maybe that. I was recently in Prague speaking at the conference of hotel asset managers, and there was a little bit of talk of that. But what do you think about that? What is your take?
Yeah, it essentially kind of piggybacks off of your last point there about that post-skeuomorphic approach to travel. The really interesting thing about tokenizing travel assets like a hotel room or a flight ticket is that not only do you get, as an end user of someone booking travel, you get like a more transparent view of what a given hotel or flight's actual booking status is. You now also get this bonus effect of being able to create a open marketplace. So you can have your traditional OTAs selling travel like they do today, but now you have the option of introducing a secondary market, just kind of like how Ticketmaster has today, where you can buy tickets from them, but there's things like StubHub and secondary markets on Ticketmaster itself that people can go and sell their tickets. And a big thing about blockchain is the transparency. If you're using a public blockchain, right? So that kind of fights off the fraudulence and security concerns of buying something on the secondary market. Of course, anybody is free to actually add more security checks, double verifications, and whatnot on top of that through like digital identity and verification. But the fact that people can book a given hotel stay for maybe like a popular hotel, and then if they can't make it, say I book a hotel for 5 days, and then I can't make 2 of those 5 days at the end, I'm not stuck with not getting the refund for that 2 days, and then the hotel isn't stuck with that room being empty for the 2 days, right? So I can go resell that on a secondary market, gain a little bit of profit on my end, but at the same time, the hotel will also potentially gain royalty fees for that. And I think it's a scenario where everybody wins. So you don't really see that in today's world, where the end customer is able to benefit from being able to resell or list something. So I think that's a really, really, really powerful use case for the travel industry. However, I think it will be difficult to get every single hotel and airline carrier and whatnot to kind of agree on that, just because of the earlier fact I mentioned that technology and innovation at the travel level is very slow to kind of pick up. But if we have enough of these small wins from smaller hotel chains, for example, or smaller airlines, then that provides like a bigger uh, trail of successes that other companies can say, oh, yes, this is working for these. Maybe we can start to quote unquote experiment doing the same.
The travel industry has always suffered from this low or slow technical adoption, and often outsiders come in and they change everything. Last one being Airbnb. But even I guess I'm not sure about the history of Expedia or Booking for sure. Like people come from the internet, or at least they came from this new thing called the internet, in a moment in which the internet for hotels, let's say hospitality, right, was like you need a website, which is like put your catalog online. That was the, again, pre-skeuomorphic approach. Yeah, we have catalogs, we can do them digital now, put them online. And then Booking.com comes and completely revolutionizes the whole booking process. And then Airbnb did the same. The Airbnb people were not from at all from the travel industry, and they completely changed the hospitality business, right? Now, who's gonna do the Web3 thing? Is this gonna be like a big corporation? Of course, you don't know, but it's just I want to. You're probably thinking a little bit about that. Is it gonna be Booking.com who does NFT bookings or NFT loyalty first? Or is it gonna be some small startup somewhere which comes and changes everything? I just say it's not gonna be hotels. I'm 100% sure it's not gonna be the small players that are not there technically. But yeah, what do you think about that? Who's gonna bring NFTs in travel?
I think it's probably going to be a startup or a series of startups, just because they have way more freedom to try different things. Corporations are essentially, they don't want to skew too much off the rails, because at the end of the day, they're in the business of making money and appeasing their shareholders. So you don't really want, especially the very successful ones like the Expedias and the Bookings, they don't really want to touch their end product too much, just because if something is working, like I mentioned before, you don't really want to transform it 180 degrees into something else. However, there's, for a startup, you basically have a open canvas to do anything and everything, and much more freedom to we use this word again, experiment with different approaches to see what sticks. So in my view, I think we're going to see a decent rise of travel startups that are looking to kind of change the norm of how things work today. Who that becomes, who the successful people end up being, who the next Airbnb of Web3 is, or whatever, I'm not sure. But there are a lot of very, very smart people in the Web3 space. So there's an ocean of opportunity there.
So you think the next big company, like the newcomer, like Airbnb was a few years ago, is it gonna be a Web3 company? Or maybe not?
Yeah. I don't know if they label themselves exactly as a Web3 company. I think they would probably be looking to use Web3 technology like blockchains. But I kind of see a melding of that and a lot of AI, ML, and potentially virtual reality and augmented reality as well. So a big thing I am pretty excited about is, I don't know if you've seen it, but the Lex Friedman podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, where they
I saw it the other day.
yeah,
Yes.
the Kodak avatars. I think that's a very, very interesting use case where essentially you have AR and ML, or sorry, VR and ML kind of playing together with Web3 in the so-called metaverse, right? And a big thing there is they're basically trying to emulate a human in the metaverse, which is very interesting and kind of very sci-fi out there. So when I saw that, I was nerding out, as I'm sure a lot of people were. But for something like travel, one can kind of foresee perhaps a travel company kind of starting up using that technology or something similar to it, to promote like virtual tours for points of interest, being able to travel with family that can't travel. So say you have a parent or grandparent that is a little bit older and doesn't like to travel or can't travel, potentially if they're wearing a headset or something, and one part of the family can go travel in real life, and the other one with the headset can kind of join them. So there's different, very compelling use cases that might come out of that. The technology is still very leading edge, so I'm sure there's, and I actually know there's a lot of work that has to be done to kind of get it to that point. One of the big things is people not having to wear those clunky headsets and kind of wearing something that's more reasonable or approachable for like an average consumer. Maybe this is what the Apple Vision, the top selling consumer product, becomes in a handful of years' time. But I see kind of a melding essentially of all of these emerging technologies. So long story short, I don't think they'd be labeled as a sole Web3 company, more so a general tech company using these myriad tools to build this new.
When this becomes ubiquitous, like you lose the name, like
you
don't call Booking an internet company, right? I mean, everything is on the internet now. You're not gonna say we are an online company. I mean, and we're gonna get to a point where everybody's gonna use parts of crypto behind the scene, maybe parts of VR, for sure, LLM, so AI. So I definitely agree that there won't be, we are a Web3 company. Maybe some. It depends when they come, I guess. So if it's like the first one, they're gonna be differentiated. It's like, okay, these are like a travel 3.0 or something like that. But names don't really matter. Still, you don't think this is gonna come from the big corporations? It's gonna come from outside, and even if corporation will be like very well placed. I mean, imagine. I don't know if you can discuss cases with Expedia, or maybe I can use Booking. I don't know if there's a problem, but let's say Bookings decides to do an experiment with an NFT bookings. I use Booking.com, right? And I try to use other, I try to use Travala and others. I rarely get a better price. It's not as, I end up using Booking.com against every fiber of my body, but I use them. And I already feel that I'm missing out on not getting an NFT for every booking I do. For the reasons you explained, like I can resell maybe a few of the nights in the NFT, or basically having this asset, but also because I want to keep an NFT after my booking. I want to build my own collection of places I've been to, for many reasons, not last getting big airdrops as in DeFi, because it's always nice to get a few $1,000s for not working. And I feel that every time I book in this legacy way, I'm not getting an NFT, and I'm not happy. I want an NFT. So how hard would it be for Booking to give you an NFT, for free, just as a stamp on your passport that you use the platform and you booked that hotel? It wouldn't cost much, and it wouldn't have any bad effects, like downside. Just give an NFT, whatever. It's not that hard, and I would attract people who want them. So there may be use cases in which actually the corporations move fast enough, and they have everything ready, right? And in a way is what, let's say, Lufthansa is doing, right? Lufthansa has the loyalty program. I'm sure is very expensive to maintain. It's got many people with miles and more. I think that's how it's called, miles and more. But they launched this very nice Web3 NFT based loyalty program where you don't have to buy anything. You just download the app, get your NFT, and then scan your old boarding pass and trips, and you get an NFT for that. Like, it's a no-brainer, and people love it. If Booking or Expedia or others do that, I mean, they're going to have a lot of usage, especially because you don't require to do your, the 12-word seed and learn all this wallet stuff, etc. So I think the jury is still out. They still have a chance to do that. Will they do it? As you said, they tend to be slow, very conservative. They don't want to take risks. So maybe somebody else will do this. But somebody else doesn't have the bookings they have. That's a bit of a problem. Maybe there's gonna be a vampire attack like that. This came to my mind right now. A vampire attack like the Sushi Swap against Uniswap, where somebody says, "I'm gonna give an NFT for every booking you did on Booking.com." Completely illegal, completely predatory. But maybe it's gonna do it, and I will get these NFTs. Why not, right? Of course, they would need access to the. Well, I can give them access to my bookings. Why not? So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Somebody's gonna do something, and all the corporations are gonna have to react quickly, and they're not so good in reacting quickly, are they? So yeah, fun times ahead.
Indeed. And on that point, my perspective on that is yes, any company can issue NFTs for you using their platform. However, in my opinion, I think the NFT should serve some sort of purpose beyond just like recognition of you doing something. And I think that's the big challenge a lot of corporations will kind of have to come up with, is what will be the future use cases of these NFTs that land in your wallet, or maybe you don't even realize they're NFTs. They call them digital collectibles, like Starbucks is doing. But the key will be how the corporations and anyone really, how they kind of brand these collectibles, in the sense that you don't want them to kind of put up, for example, you don't want a corporation to put up NFT collection to represent a real world object, but they charge a ludicrous amount for you to have this collectible. But it doesn't really serve any use case beyond just saying, oh, hey, I have this thing to go with this thing, and I paid this extra money. Because the big thing, and I'm sure in the Web3 space right now, is reputation is everything. Because the user base is so niche, and a lot of people in this space are very riled up with how corporations are behaving today. So any little kind of deviation from the so-called happy path, and your reputation in the space could be tarnished. So you kind of, if I were running a corporation, I would want to be careful in how I would brand these NFTs and what their purpose would be for the end user. So there's challenges there, and I think that's a big thing a lot of folks are probably thinking about. At least I would hope that's how they're thinking.
No, you're right, because one way I always picture this, maybe young innovators in a big corporation, and they go to the higher levels and they say, okay, we should do NFTs. And the only way they can convince them is to say, we can sell NFTs. And selling NFT, come on, you're basically asking me money to get something which costs nothing to you, on the promise that I will get something, but that's not very specific, and maybe it was it's going to be, right? This is not a good deal. And like Etihad did that, Trip.com did that. You have to buy their NFT. And I'm very suspicious of buying NFT. Okay, that's why I like what Lufthansa did. You don't buy the NFT, and if you collect these travels, you have a collection, I don't know, 10 travels in Europe, one lounge access or something like that. I didn't pay for it. They are rewarding me, and unfortunately, I haven't traveled Lufthansa for a long time now, or any other airline in that alliance. They're saying, okay, you travel with us. Thank you for what you did. Here's a way for us to reward you. It's very close to an airdrop, right? And this is nice, of course, from our point of view. So I agree with you. It's it's going to be sad when corporations go into this. I mean, I've heard them literally say there's a way to basically print money, right? Give me your money, I give you an NFT. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they're going to make money, like they don't do enough, but that's not the way to go. The way to go is to
100%.
In the fidelity is to say, okay, you've been with us for a long time. Here's something for you, right? That's a nice way. But it's also a bit, and you mentioned that it could not be easy to go that way because, and I'm not an expert, maybe you can correct me on that. I have the feeling that all these fidelity programs, loyalty programs, are based on the following premise. I'm going to give you points, and I hope you don't use them. But because you have the points, you're going to book with me again, right? Especially with airlines, right? I'm going to give you points, but before you have enough, you really need to be a frequent flyer to be enough. Of course, there are frequent flyer loyalty programs, but and the best use case scenario is when you get those points, you book with me many times, hoping to actually get something free, but then you don't get something free. So they expire, so there's limitations, etc. With NFTs, if done properly, the moment you give me 10,000 miles on an NFT and I can sell it, I'm already monetizing it. So maybe you as a corporation, you don't like that because you're actually giving out real value, right? So that could be a counter force against doing this properly, right? What do you think about that? Are these dynamics present in corporations?
These are definitely things that a lot of folks are going to face like a tug of war on, just because a lot of folks that are running big corporations today, they don't really immediately get this like shift of paradigm where now the user, the end user, can somewhat benefit more so, and take maybe a small piece of the pie of the profits of the company. And it's really a hard sell when you think about it. Like imagine you go to your CFO and say, "Oh, hey, yeah, we want to do this, but now we're gonna like a chunk of the change out of the of the balance is gonna go to the end user." So it's I think there is a happy path to kind of getting there. I don't know if it's going to be a full wholesale change, but I think gradually, as there's more evidence of such things being proven out to be beneficiary for the end customer, and it creates a happy cycle where the company ends up making their profits like they are today, maybe even a little bit more, but the end user becomes like even happier customer. I think those kind of virtuous cycles will lead itself better to people being convinced that this is a far better shift, at least in my opinion, for not people just in travel, but like any type of corporate interaction where you have this B2C kind of element to it, or even a C2C. So
the trick, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The trick to sell this idea, in my opinion, or at least the way I would do it, is to say, look, this is marketing money. So you're going to spend less in marketing. So take $1 million in marketing, you don't spend them, and give them out in perks. So give people a digital collectible for the past experiences, the past purchases. Give it for free. And then spend $1 million less in marketing and give them perks. So instead of giving the money to Google and Facebook, which basically marketing is Google and Facebook, give it to your users. That's a bit easier to understand, and it's easier to understand that could actually have good effects, because users because we as users are being bombarded by advertisement paid to someone else, so they take our time and attention, but we get nothing in return. So that's the way I will do it. Before I forget, do you know anything about the Expedia Bitcoin experience in the past, like when they start, why they stopped, etc.? Is there any talk about this in the company? Is it public? I mean, can you talk about it?
I can't delve too much into the specifics, and it actually came before my time, but essentially, from what I've read about it, the company was accepting Bitcoin as payment. But as we know, the perspective of people holding Bitcoin is they don't want to spend their Bitcoin. So exactly. I think that's probably a reason why it didn't really take off. And to your previous point about the marketing point, that's actually a fantastic way to think about it. And because you do essentially get free marketing if people are happy and talking about your product after receiving some sort of beneficiary token or NFT or whatever that has some sort of value to them. But yeah, it's still a battle to get to that point. But yeah, that's a great perspective to think about.
If you notice, to double down on this, so in crypto we have basically 3 use cases: speculation, as you said, DeFi, which is again speculation, but this is at least is a whole new infrastructure, and NFTs, which is again speculation, but is a new infrastructure for digital assets. If you notice, the very successful projects, or most successful projects in these verticals, do not do advertising. When you see advertising on Twitter for something crypto related, is usually a scam or something worthless. Their advertising is made differently, partly with a lot of organic stuff or pseudo-organic stuff. Okay, of course, a lot of influencers, but also a lot of, let's call it airdrop, like giving something back to the users, right? So maybe travel will go a little bit in that direction.
Yeah.
Question for you. Any interesting projects in travel with something Web3 related today?
The biggest ones that I'm familiar with and kind of keeping my eyes on revolve around this idea of tokenizing assets. So TravelX is one where they're tokenizing flight tickets, and then Pink Tada is another one where they're doing the same kind of idea but with hotels. So those two are the purest Web3 technologies that I'm kind of looking at. Another one is around digital identity. So not essentially a startup, but LinkedIn essentially recently introduced a way for people to verify themselves using a Microsoft product called Microsoft Entra, where they partnered with Clear, the identity company. I don't know if you've seen it in U.S. airports where they have this booth. You scan your face, your retinas, and then you kind of get this fast pass to kind of fast track your way through the airport. Hoping they eventually bring it to Canada, cross fingers. But they're using that in conjunction with blockchain as well. They're using the ION network, which is a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. So you kind of see this.
Which one could you
melding? ION, ION. It's called
okay.
the identity overlay network.
On Bitcoin?
Yeah, a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin.
All right, okay, I didn't know that.
But yeah, so you kind of see not directly a travel innovation, but a travel-esque company kind of working with major identity players to kind of come up with a system to prove one's identity. So theoretically, if this works out on LinkedIn, it might have other applications in other places as well, whether that's in travel or wherever. So those are kind of the big ones I have an eye on at this point in time.
Did you figure out Pink Tada, what kind of use they make of the blockchain? Did you go a bit deep in with them?
I haven't gone too deep into research. It's a thing that is on my list of things to do, but the concept, broad concept, as I understand, is they tokenize the hotel room and then they let you create a marketplace. Either they have a marketplace or they let you, in their B2B business, open up a marketplace that uses that supply. Not sure how they're actually going about doing the tokenization of the hotel room, but yeah, something to rabbit hole on.
I'm asking because I did an analysis. There's an episode in the Web3 Travel podcast about Pink Tada, and if I remember correctly, I couldn't find any on-chain activity basically, and that's actually, there's been kind of a I've seen this in other projects, which we are blockchain based and there's nothing on the blockchain, or at least it's not public, so I cannot see it. So I was wondering if you knew a bit more about that, because sometimes it's just hard to find. It's out there, but they don't publish it for various reasons. Okay. As Pink Tada, there's also Tachyon, which is doing something similar. if they give you NFTs, basically. Also, book trip is doing that too. I actually bought a night in Bali. I'm not going to Bali, but I bought a night in Bali on the cheapest I could find for $5, just to get
Nice.
the NFT. And just, because I always promise myself I'm gonna get every NFT in travel possible, but then some NFTs you have to buy for, and I don't think is worth it. Some others you have to have, very expensive hotel rooms, etc. So I don't have much. But yeah, so this NFT concept on booking is NFTs is actually producing startups. And just less than a year ago, there was basically nothing. It was just like an idea. So that's interesting. Any other projects you see there, or something you would like to see, or something you're expecting to see, or?
That's a great question. Perhaps more spins on the digital identity space. I think with the rise of zero knowledge proof technology, I think there's a lot of great opportunity there for maybe optimizing the airport experience, or any other place that you have to show government issued credentials to board, like a cruise ship or whatnot. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I'm kind of waiting in the wings to see what pops up there.
In Europe, there's more and more airports where you scan your passport on this automatic gate and you go through. Is that something, but something more advanced than that, just like face recognition, you mean?
Yeah, essentially there's a lot of, like, airport especially. So, like, for me, you scan, even if you check in online and you scan your airport or scan your passport, still have to wait in line to drop off your bags, and then you have to go wait in another line to kind of go through security and immigration and whatnot. So if there's a way to kind of speed up that process through a new digital identity medium, or even the fact that not having to reveal everything and anything about myself, only the things relevant to me traveling, I think that would be a big win.
The ZK proof, ZK proof is let me just explain the concept to people who are listening. With ZK proof, you can prove it's zero knowledge proof. It's basically I can prove that I was born that day, or that I have that information, or that this is my name, without giving you my name, without giving my birthday, without giving anything. I just give you let's say the internet says, yes, he is what he said, who he says he is, but you don't need to know who he is. Something like that. I'm really simplifying very much. It's like zero knowledge. You can prove that you have some kind of information, or you are, you have some kind of information without revealing that information, which is the most counterintuitive thing you could think about, because information is something which you have to give and show. But that's certainly one of the many travel things which should be improved, because we are so tired of going through these airports, and you get this very fast flying thing, but then you have to wait hours just before getting on it. It's completely crazy. Yeah. All right, now a question which I hate when they do to me. No, I don't hate, but I can't answer, because I'm always being very wrong in this, which is timing. Like, I started going 100% into Web3 and travel in 2017, and I would have said 5 years from now, decentralized Airbnb, decentralized booking, everything crypto, etc. It's 6 years now. Almost nothing has happened. I mean, the trend is very clear, and I'm very happy that it's been confirmed, but we don't have really anything mainstream yet. So the question for you is, when are we gonna have, like, something really, at least the first big thing in crypto related in travel? When is it gonna be? 1 year, 5, 10, 50? Never.
I don't think stuff. Never. Star Trek stuff, right? Yes. I think definitely it'll be in this decade. I think not just travel, but Web3 in general is still waiting for its kind of let's call it its chat GPT moment, because AI and ML has been around for a long while. and nobody really took note of it or was super excited about it until a product like ChatGPT has like came out, and it was a consumer approachable product where you didn't really need much of anything to get going. You just type a prompt and then bang, you're on your way. So I think we're still waiting for that really big kind of approachable Web3 product to come about. And whether that's something for travel or commerce, DeFi, what have you, I think that product still has yet to be created, but I think it'll have its Twitter, Facebook kind of moment sometime this decade. And I think once that kind of establishes itself, you'll see the golden era kind of rush of the internet, where after Twitter and Facebook kind of came out, like all these other innovative products kind of started coming out after, whether they're repeats of things that were tried previously or not. I think that we're still waiting for that. And personally, I think it comes sometime this decade.
Okay. Do you feel an acceleration, like in the last year or two, that something is accelerated not in general, of course, everything is being accelerated like crazy, but the travel industry, Web3, the travel industry, do you feel something is happening a bit more like quickly than it was happening before? Innovation is, do you have this feeling? Because I have it, that's why I ask.
I personally, I haven't seen anything to stick out to me personally, but in Web3 in general, I think we're seeing more of a concentrated approach on trying to fix the UX side of things. But I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on what you're seeing in the travel space.
In travel, it's more about quantity than quality. So again, nothing which actually changes the way I experience travel. But I've seen more and more startups, coming out more often. Better ideas, also like more quality in that sense. And especially, I found you when I was doing an episode called Travel News from Twitter. So I went on Twitter and I wrote Web3 travel or blockchain travel, and I saw your interview in the other podcast. What was the name of the other podcast where you were talking?
The Web3 working group.
Exactly. Okay. And during that research, which started at the end of August, so a month or something, I saw in progression, Etihad doing this new NFT, Trip.com, and then a few others, and then Lufthansa. Lufthansa was the big moment for me. It's like, okay, Lufthansa got in during the bear market in a proper way, which is a big news. It's not in a bull market, let's sell NFTs way, but something much very well executed. And that was like a couple or 3 weeks ago. So I have this feeling that things are picking up. It could be a false start again, but we are in the bear market. You're not in a bull market. In bull market, when things happen, everybody wants to do something with NFTs, whatever, they do it quickly. If it's bear market, I tend to give it a bit more credit. So I have the feeling that we may be accelerating. And the thing about the exponential age is that when things really start accelerating, they run away very quickly and they fly away very quickly. And I'm a bit worried. Exactly. I'm not ready. At the same time, AI comes out and you go after AI, of course, because how can you ignore it? Now, VR, AR is coming back because of this last Friedman, and so too many things at the same time, and I don't feel ready for that. But at the same time, I've been waiting for a long time, so I feel very excited for that. So I feel there's an acceleration, definitely.
Excellent. And I hope you're right. I'm ready. I'm ready for it all.
But I was talking today to a friend in terms like, when is the next bull market? And he was saying maybe for sure not this year, maybe next year. And I was thinking, I want the bear market to last as long as I can. It's quiet, you can accumulate, you can learn, you can prepare yourself. When the bull market comes, everything becomes stupid in a way, right? You have new people coming out, these geniuses, which then turn out to be SBFs. And I don't know, I really enjoy bear markets with these until not at the beginning when everything is crashing, but when you feel that, I'm repeating things everybody says, like people are building, there's no noise, and you know that we are just we passed the worst, and then the rest is going to be downhill. So that's the feeling I have right now. It's a very nice feeling. When the bull market comes, and for people who are listening, I'm not talking about bull market in terms only of money, of like your net worth going up and getting airdrops and stuff. About that, the fact that things are going to pick up and a lot of experimentation would be possible, which is not possible now, etc. But in that moment, it becomes, again, so stupid in a way. Like 9 out of 10 projects are totally hype-based, and you know it, but everybody's talking about them, not about the rest. It gets really, really messy, and I don't know, I'm not ready for that. So
yeah,
I'm enjoying this.
And we're kind of seeing that with AI now, right? Like everybody's coming up with like any and everything out there to see what sticks. So
the AI
it's kind of having
its
NFT moment.
Yeah, but AI doesn't have all this speculation because there's no tokens. The speculation is at the venture capital level, of course. But us as users, it's good. GPT is ChatGPT comes with new things. There's many new things coming out. It's just good things. You don't have this FOMO that you have to buy the token of GPT, you have to buy the token of Anthropic, then you have to buy the NFT of that one. So I'm enjoying this AI in a sense. But with crypto, it at the same time, on top of what I said, you always feel that, oh my God, that token maybe is gonna go up 100 times. How can I miss it, right? And you completely lose the focus on the right thing. So, and I've done 3 bull runs, and I know that I won't resist this time too. So again, enjoying this moment. Okay,
we're only human. We're only human.
Yeah, we're only human. We want to be. We want to make money without working. We want to be rich, and we want to be more rich than we ever dreamed of. And then everything crashes, and we get poor again. All right.
The way it is.
At least we know it. Okay, Narb, it was great. Maybe you want to leave a few, say a bit where we can find you and the projects you mentioned at the beginning. Maybe you can talk about them again. So please go ahead. The stage is yours.
Certainly. Thank you, Luca. And again, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate having me on here to talk travel and Web3. If you want to find me on Twitter, X, I'm Narb_S. So NARB like Bob _S. I'm most active there for Web3 things. So don't hesitate to DM if you ever want to chat. Regarding the various initiatives that I mentioned earlier. So Developer DAO, if you want to follow Developer DAO on X, it's developer_DAO. Deventel also has its own Twitter handle if you want to follow that as well, Deventel XYZ. For the Glossetta Foundation, if you want to follow Glossetta on Instagram, TikTok, or Twitter, it's glossetta.com on all 3. And Good People Click is Good People Click on all the various social platforms as well. Really looking forward to seeing how travel continues to evolve. Whether or not blockchain becomes a prominent part of that, I'm quite hopeful it does, just like you are. But like we mentioned, builders got to keep building till we get to that point.
Okay, great. So we will put the links you mentioned under the description. And thank you again. Hope maybe to meet you somewhere sometimes. Maybe are you ever going to Europe sometimes?
It's on the bucket list. I haven't done it before, but hoping to do a Web3 conference and Europe trip at the same time.
Yeah, so we're organizing the Web3 travel conference next year in Italy, so maybe that could be a good chance to get a flight.
Interesting.
Maybe buying an NFT for the flight.
Yes, right.
All right. Thank you, Narb. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure. All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye. And we're done. Thank you for listening to this episode. For more insights, follow me on Twitter at tripluca, TRIPLUCA. If you enjoy my podcast and want to support it, head on to podcast.web3intravel.com, 3 is a digit, and mint an NFT. If you want to sponsor it, you can do it at the same page. I will mention you in the podcast, and your name will appear on all donation NFTs for a while. Thank you, and ciao.